Okay, so what if I told you that one man, standing by this tiny little river over 2,000 years ago, made a single choice that would literally change the world forever? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
You've probably heard this phrase before, right? Crossing the Rubicon? Maybe in a movie or you read it somewhere. It sounds super ancient, but believe it or not, it's totally connected to our story. And people still use it today when they're talking about a massive, life-altering decision.
Yeah, so what it really means is you're all in. You've made a choice and that's it. There's no going back. It's the point of no return. So today, we're going to get into the original super high-stakes story behind that phrase.
All right, so to really get this, we've got to rewind a bit and understand the world where all this went down. Think of it as a showdown between a total superstar general and a government that was getting pretty nervous about him.
See, for hundreds of years, Rome was what's called a republic. The best way to think about it is like a giant group project. The whole point was that no one person could ever be the boss. Instead, you had this group of powerful guys called the Senate making all the big decisions together. Why? Because they were absolutely terrified of one person, like a king, taking over everything.
And then you have Julius Caesar. This guy was a military genius. I mean, he conquered enormous territories for Rome, which made him incredibly rich, super famous, and absolutely beloved by his soldiers and the public. But, to the Senate, a guy this popular and this powerful, he wasn't a hero. No, he was a threat, a giant flashing red flag.
Now, Caesar wasn't flying solo at first. He was part of this powerful team-up, this political supergroup called the Triumvirate. It was him, another powerful general named Pompey, and a super rich guy named Crassus. But then Crassus died, and the whole team just fell apart. Suddenly, Caesar and Pompey went from being allies to bitter rivals. And Pompey? He actually sided with the Senate to try and take Caesar down.
So this is where it all comes to a head. The Senate, with Pompey's backing, gives Caesar an order: disband your army and come back to Rome alone, just as a regular citizen. But Caesar knew what that meant. Without his loyal soldiers protecting him, his enemies would have him arrested or worse. It was a total standoff. Each side was backing the other into a corner with absolutely no way out.
And this brings us to the moment. The whole thing comes down to one man, one choice, at the edge of a small, pretty insignificant river that happened to be the legal border of Italy.
Okay, so here's the deal. According to Roman law, it was completely illegal for a general to bring his army across the Rubicon River into Italy. Doing that was an act of treason. It was basically a declaration of war against your own country. So Caesar had this impossible choice: his career and his life, or the peace of the entire Roman Republic.
And standing right there at the river's edge, he made his choice. He supposedly said, "Alia jacta est," which means the die is cast. And with that, he ordered his army to march forward. He was betting everything, literally everything, on winning a war against his own government. The point of no return had just been crossed.
So what happens after you cross the Rubicon? Well, it immediately plunges the entire Roman world into a massive, brutal civil war. The fallout was fast, it was bloody, and it would reshape Rome forever.
This war raged for years, all across the known world. And Caesar, well, he proved again and again what an incredible general he was. One by one, he defeated all of his enemies, including his old rival Pompey. By the time the dust finally settled, there was literally no one left who could challenge him. And this is where the old rules of Rome just completely shattered. The Senate, which was pretty much under his thumb by now, named him dictator for life. I mean, this was the absolute ultimate nightmare for the Republic. One man holding total power forever. But it's interesting, Caesar wasn't just some power-hungry guy. He used all this new authority to make some huge changes. He completely reorganized the calendar. They called it the Julian calendar, and it's basically the great-grandfather of the one we use right now. Things like this, these reforms, made him even more popular with the common people, and, you guessed it, even more hated by the old guard senators.
But for those senators who still clung to the dream of the old republic, they saw only one way out of this. They figured if Caesar wasn't going to give up his power willingly, well, they would have to take it from him by force.
So this group of senators who started calling themselves the Liberators decided to take matters into their own hands. They were terrified, absolutely convinced that Caesar's next move was to declare himself king. And one of the key plotters was a man named Brutus, someone Caesar trusted and considered a close friend. Their plan was simple and brutal:
assassinate Caesar during a Senate meeting on a day we now call the Ides of March.
And on that day, March 15th, 44 BCE, they did it. The conspirators surrounded Caesar right there on the Senate, and they attacked. He was stabbed 23 times. He collapsed and died on the floor of the very government he now controlled.
And here is the ultimate tragic irony. The conspirators, they honestly thought they were saving the Republic. But by killing Caesar, they didn't save it. They unleashed a whole new wave of chaos that would end up destroying it for good.
See, Caesar's death didn't bring back the old days. It just created a massive power vacuum. His top general, Mark Antony, and his chosen heir, his great-nephew, Octavian, they immediately turned the Roman people against the assassins. This sparked another civil war, one that was even bloodier than the first. And when all the fighting was finally over, it was Caesar's heir, Octavian, who was left standing with all the power.
And with Octavian, who would soon take the name Emperor Augustus, the change was complete. The Roman Republic, this 500-year-old system of shared power, was officially dead, and in its place rose the Roman Empire, ruled by one all-powerful emperor.
So you see, the story of Caesar and the Rubicon is so much more than just a cool piece of ancient history. It leaves us with this really big question, one we're still dealing with today. What happens when a country's leaders get so divided that they just can't solve its biggest problems anymore? It's a powerful reminder of how political division and personal ambition can push an entire system right to its breaking point and change the world in ways that nobody sees coming.